You know that agriculture is the most fundamental primary economic activity of man. Around two-thirds of world population engaged directly or indirectly to the agricultural fields. The term agriculture includes several activities. It includes growing of various crops, trees, flowers, fruits, vegetables, fish, poultry, and even domestication of animals. The word agriculture came from a Latin word agricultura. Here, ager means field and cultura means tillage. Thus, the literal meaning of agriculture means tillage of fields. The history of agriculture has played a major role in human history. Agricultural progress has been a crucial factor in worldwide socio-economic change. Division of labor in agricultural societies made commonplace specializations rarely seen in hunter-gatherer societies. When farmers became capable of producing food beyond the needs of their own families, others in their society were freed to devote themselves to the projects other than food acquisition. Historians and anthropologists have long argued that the development of agriculture made civilization possible. The total worldwide population probably never exceeded 15 million inhabitants before the invention of agriculture in 10,000 BC. Let us see significance of agriculture. Agriculture is that economic activity which provides the basic food which is necessary for the existence of mankind. The activity of agriculture provides the raw materials for several industries. Agriculture is the great source of employment opportunity. Two-thirds of world population depends agriculture for their day-to-day living. In most of the countries, major share of their national income comes from agricultural sector. Agriculture has great potential in environmental point of view as it keeps ecological balance. Agriculture is largely influenced by physical factors which include physiography, water availability, climate, and soil. The economic and social factors also affect agriculture. It includes labor, capital, marketing, transportation facilities, etc. Due to large variations in these factors, the type of agriculture practice differ one part of the world to another part. Hence, the same type of agriculture cannot be practiced everywhere. In some areas, farmers grew crops for their own consumption, while in some other areas, farmers cultivate crops for sale in the market. In some areas, they are specialized in food products, while in other areas, they grow cash crops. Agriculture is practiced under multiple combinations of physical as well as socio-cultural conditions. This gives rise to different types of agricultural practices or agricultural systems. For example, subsistence farming, commercial farming, mixed farming, Mediterranean agriculture, cooperative farming, etc. All these agricultural systems have their own methods of farming and cropping culture. Let us see some of them in detail. Subsistence agriculture means the production of crops for self-consumption and not for sale in the market. The farming areas consume all of the products locally grown. It can be grouped into two categories. Number 1, primitive subsistence agriculture and intensive subsistence agriculture. Primitive subsistence agriculture. It is also known as shifting agriculture or shifting cultivation. It was widely practiced by many tribes in the tropics, especially in Africa. The vegetation is usually cleared by fire, and the ashes add to the fertility of the soil. Thus, this agriculture practice is also called as slash and burn agriculture. The cultivated patches are very small. Cultivation is done by very primitive tools such as sticks and hoes. After some time, the soil loses its fertility. Then the farmer shifts his cultivation or farming to some other fields. After a series of cultivation of crops and cropping area, farmer return to the earlier patches sometimes. Shifting cultivation has different names in different parts of the world. In Northeast India, it is known as joming. In Central America, shifting cultivation is known as milpa, and in Indonesia and Malaysia, it is known as ladang. Intensive subsistence agriculture. This type of farming is a typical feature of densely populated regions of monsoon Asia. There are two types of intensive subsistence farming. Intensive subsistence agriculture dominated by wet paddy cultivation. Here, paddy is the major crop. Land holdings are very small due to high population density. Agricultural operations are done manually and the use of machineries are very limited. Farmyard manures are used as fertilizers. Farmers work with the help of other members of his family. Entire farming system is labor intensive and productivity is very low. Intensive subsistence agriculture dominated by crops other than paddy. It is not practical to grow paddy everywhere, whereas it requires a typical relief, a typical soil and a typical climate. In other areas, wheat, barley, soybean, sorghum, etc. are cultivated. China, Manchuria, North Korea, North Japan, North India and Pakistan, etc. have this type of farming practices. One peculiarity is that they have irrigation facilities if necessary. The Europeans colonized many parts of the world and developed some new farming practices. Plantation agriculture is one among them. Europeans started plantations of tea, plantations of coffee, rubber, cotton and even oil palms. They started sugarcane plantations, pineapples and plantations of banana. The characteristic features of plantation agriculture are large estates or plantation areas. Second, specialization of a single crop. Third one, scientific and modern methods of cultivation. Fourth, huge capital investment. Fifth one, technical support and well management practices. Sixth, cheap labor and permanent labor. And the seventh one, finally, good system of transportation facilities. Extensive commercial grain cultivation. Commercial grain cultivation is a typical feature of interior part of semi-arid lands in mid-latitudes. The size of the farm is very large. Manual labor is very limited, but entire farming system from pouching to harvesting are mechanized. Thus, there is low yield per area, but high yield per person. Wheat is the principal crop in this commercial grain cultivation. Corn, rye, oats, barley, etc. are also cultivated through this method of farming. This type of agriculture is best developed in European steppes, Canadian and American prairies, the pampas of Argentina, velds of South America, downs in Australia, and the plains of New Zealand. Mixed farming. This form of agriculture is found in the highly developed parts of the world like northwestern Europe, eastern North America, parts of Eurasia, and temperate latitudes of southern continents. Mixed farms are moderate in size. It is characterized with high capital expenditure on farm machinery and buildings. Both chemical fertilizers and green manures are used in this method. Skilled or expertised farmers are another speciality of this mixed farming. Major crops associated with this are wheat, barley, oats, rye, maize, fodder, and some root crops. Fodder crops are very important component of mixed farming. Crop rotation and intercropping play an important role in maintaining the fertility of the soil. Equal emphasis are given to crop cultivation and animal husbandry. Animals like cattle, sheep, pigs, and poultry provide additional income along with the crop cultivation. Dairy farming. Dairying is the most advanced and efficient type of rearing of milk animals. It is highly capital intensive. Animal sheds, storage facilities, feeding and milking machines add to the cost of dairy farming. Special emphasis is laid on cattle breeding, healthcare facilities, and veterinary services. It is highly labor intensive as it involves rigorous care in feeding and mulching. Dairy farming is practiced mainly very near to urban areas and industrial centers, which provide neighborhood market for fresh milk and dairy products. The development of transportation, refrigeration, and other preservation processes has increased the duration of storage of milk and various dairy products. There are three main regions of commercial dairy farming in the world. The largest is northwestern Europe. The second is Canada, and the third belt includes southeastern Australia, New Zealand, and Tasmania. Mediterranean agriculture is highly specialized commercial agriculture. It is practiced in the countries on either side of Mediterranean Sea. It includes the countries of Europe and in the countries of North America from Tunisia to Atlantic coast, the southern California, central Chile, southwestern part of South Africa, and southwestern part of Australia also. This region is an important supplier of citrus fruits. The advantage of Mediterranean agriculture is that more valuable crops such as citrus fruits and vegetables are grown in winters when there is great demand in European and North American markets. Viticulture or grape cultivation is a great specialty of Mediterranean region. Best quality wines in the world are produced from this region. Market gardening and horticulture. This type of farming specializes the cultivation of high value crops like vegetables, fruits and flowers. They are produced solely for urban markets. Farms are small and they are located where there are good transportation links with urban centers. They target the high income group of consumers in the city. It is both labor and capital intensive. Horticulture is characterized with use of high yielding varieties of seeds, fertilizers, insecticides and good irrigation facilities. They use greenhouses and artificial heating facilities in cold regions. Truck farming. Here the farmers are specialized in cultivation of vegetables only. These farms are always located very near to the market as the vegetables are a perishable commodity. The distance between the truck farms and the markets are governed by the distance that a truck can cover overnight. Hence the name truck farming came. Factory farming. In addition to market gardening, a modern development in the industrial regions of Western Europe and Northeast America is factory farming. Livestock, particularly poultry and cattle rearing, is done stalls and pens fed on manufactured feedstuff and carefully supervised against the diseases. It requires heavy capital investment in terms of buildings, machinery, veterinary services and heating and lighting. Cattle farms and poultry farms uses breeds very scientifically. We can classify the farms of the world based on farming organizations also. The farming organizations are affected by the ownership of the farms and various government policies on farming systems. Cooperative farms. A group of farmers form a society by pooling their resources voluntarily for more efficient and profitable farming. Individual farms remain intact and farming is a matter of collective effort and responsibility. Cooperative societies help farmers to produce all inputs of farming. They help them in selling their products at most favorable terms and help in processing of quality products at very cheaper rates. Collective farming. The basic principle behind this type of farming is based on social ownership of the means of production. The collective labor is also another principle behind this type of farming. The collective farming was first introduced in erstwhile Soviet Union to improve the traditional system of agriculture. It was meant for boosting the agriculture sector of the country and to hike the production for self-sufficiency. There it was known as kolkhoz. Let me see what is kolkhoz. They keep a farmer's pool in all their agricultural resources like land, labor and livestock. However, they are allowed to retain small pots to grow in order to meet their daily needs. Production targets are set by the government and the products are sold to government at a fixed price. The excess produce can be distributed among the members of the cooperative society, or they can sell in the open market. The farmers have to pay taxes on farm produce and hired machinery. Members are paid according to their respective engagement in the field. This type of farming was introduced in Soviet Union under the socialist regime. Even though it was copied to other socialist countries, the collapse of USSR made many modifications in this system. So far, we have discussed different agricultural systems prevailing in different parts of the world. Various physical and socio-cultural factors behind them also we analyzed. You try to collect details of farming practices in your locality and make a study on them.